Thank you. I'm going to start speaking before I get to the designated areas. I have very little time to describe what is a very, very challenging sector today in Armenia. But before I do, allow me to take a few seconds to thank the Institute and to thank SALPI in particular. Earlier today, Alex was giving different descriptors to SALPI, and allow me to add to that, in the many years that I've known SALPI, she has been a perpetuum mobile. She has an incredible source of energy and drive, and putting together an event of this sort, fourth year in a row, takes the will, power, takes incredible focus, and definitely the energy that SALPI has. So thank you so much, SALPI. Thank you to the Institute. And thank you so much this time around for extending the invitation to the government. I believe this is very important for us to diagnose the problems of Armenia today together, and also find solutions and define a vision that we want to have for our country and for our nation globally in the future. So this is a very important exercise, and thank you for the platform to speak on behalf of the government. So before I go into the nitty-gritty of environment and the challenges that we have, I want to set the right context. And the right context is, I want to go back to exactly a year from today, a little bit more, during the Velvet Revolution. The central themes of Velvet were human security: existential, social, economic, and environmental security. And in many respects, power as we know it was redefined during the Velvet Revolution, because it was a revolution of love and tolerance. And it does not fit into our preconceived notions of what power is. So in many respects, Velvet Revolution redefined power. And who were the driving forces behind that? Women. Women were the powerful mobilizers, and their presence during the Velvet Revolution was essential in breaking that important numbers game that occurred during the Velvet Revolution. So here is to all the women in Armenia that really redefined the movement that occurred 1 year ago, and did it in a very eloquent and very feminine fashion, if you will, and hence thereby redefined power as we know it. So coming back to human security, the economic, existential, social, and environmental, these themes transitioned also to the statecraft that occurred after Velvet. When the new administration came to power, these themes were center and front of policymaking and statecraft. So today I'll speak about 4 aspects of environmental security and environmental statecraft: the challenges that we have identified and continue to identify, the policy goals that we have, the solutions that we see and we still devise, and we need diaspora's engagement as we seek sustainable solutions, as well as the vision that we have. So speaking about the challenges, earlier today, Prime Minister Pashinyan said that as we engage in the state building of Armenia, of new Armenia, as we innovate, one very important factor is constantly in the forefront, is understanding what had occurred in the past 30 years in independent Armenia. And we're still diagnosing the problems that exist in the environmental sector. So to sum up all the challenges, one of the underlying conceptual elements of the legislative architecture of Armenia pertaining to environment was the simple context that was a simple concept that we inherited from the Soviet era, and that was the concept of polluter pays. The concept underlined the understanding that, well, nature is infinite, so we can constantly use and use and use from it. But unfortunately, nature is not infinite, it's finite. And with this concept injected into the legal architecture of Armenia, we have so many problems today. The polluter pays concept is present today in the mining, in the old abandoned mines as well as the current operating mines. We have the problem with illegal logging. We have a major problem with water management, very unsustainable water resource management. We have problem with illegal hunting and poaching. We have problems with monitoring system. It's not rigorous, not at all, and we need to install a very rigorous monitoring system to be able to diagnose the current and emerging environmental problems. And another very big challenge that we're facing today is climate change. Climate change, as we know it today, or we talk about it occurring in the future, Armenia is already experiencing it. Armenia has been ranked as 4th most vulnerable country to climate change in the region. We have already registered 1.3 degrees Celsius increase in temperatures. Parallel to that, we have already registered a 9% decrease in precipitation, which is huge for Armenia, given that a significant portion of our economy depends on agriculture, and we need sustainable water resources. We need to manage our water resources sustainably so that we can continue to grow that very vital economic sector, which was mentioned today by also Dr. Ghaplanyan. So how do we address all these immense challenges? Well, first of all, we need to define our vision, our policy goals. And the first thing is we need to, and we have already started to scrap the existing legislative architecture and to inject the new concept, not the compensation concept, but the concept of mitigation, that we do not operate with a concept of polluter pays, but we prevent pollution to begin with. And that's pertaining to current and old mines, that's pertaining to illegal logging and water management, wastewater management, and waste management in general. We have, you know, as very poignantly Shushan mentioned today, environmental policy and environmental statecraft is injected into every aspect of human activity. And as we devise environmental policy, it touches upon every sector. So as we devise a policy for proper water resource management, we work with Ministry of Agriculture because we need to focus on not just industrial agriculture, but smart agriculture, because Armenia has a huge potential in developing this sector, but we need to manage it sustainably. But more importantly, we can be more competitive with our export products if they are organic, clean, and raised sustainably. Armenia's energy efficiency. Today, Armenia's 30% of Armenia's energy goes to, unfortunately, buildings. We don't have much industry, and using 30% of our energy on buildings is, well, not economically very smart. So right now we're working on redefining the policy and vision for energy efficiency, and we have started a number of projects with our donor organizations and partners, and we're working on increasing the efficiency of buildings, thereby also working on electrifying our economy. Armenia, well, you know, we have never been cursed with the resource curse problem, and today it becomes more and more evident that it is the luck that we have, because Armenia is not a fossil fuel producing country, it's an importing country. And if before this was a problem on many levels, also pertaining to security, today we can invest into developing our own energy. And Ministry of Energy a few months ago articulated a very ambitious and bold vision, but one that can become very possible in the next few years. And that is in the next 5 years, to have in Armenia's energy infrastructure 50% coming from renewable energy. So electrifying economies is also part and parcel of not just our agenda as Ministry of Nature Protection, soon to be Ministry of Environment, but it's on the top priority of the government, because as we become more sustainable, we become also more independent and more secure. In terms of solutions, there are many, and I would like to underline a few. First of all, it's articulating the proper vision. I think before we engage in anything, we need to understand where we want to go. And the first solution is having a vision for Armenia in terms of sustainability. Secondly, we've already started devising a strategy and a roadmap in which we have short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals aimed at achieving our vision that we have devised. And of course, rebuilding the legal infrastructure the legal architecture that I earlier mentioned, that's so fraught with problems. Again, we have already started on a number of projects, including, for example, electric mobility. We have introduced a very interesting legal proposal which has passed in the government and will be soon on the floor of the parliament with hopefully successful passage. Armenia is waiving VAT taxation from electric vehicles, so come July 1st, hopefully, you will be able to import your electric vehicle into Armenia VAT free. And parallel to that, we're working with the United Nations Environmental Program on developing statewide policy and capacity building project, as well as a small demonstration project for transitioning government into to electric vehicles. So that's just one aspect that we're working in terms of solution. Another major aspect for us is plastic pollution. Armenia is not a country that has access to seas, but our soil and our water reservoirs are heavily polluted with plastic. So we've introduced a piece of legislation which is now is in a draft format and being circulated with respect to governments. And if it passes successfully, we will be installing a tax or a fee on plastic bags. And by 2023, we will ban them. And parallel to that, we're working on another project for deposit system for bottles. I'm outlining these small projects because I believe that we can build bridges together with diaspora on these small sectoral initiatives. And when we talk about solutions, we need to understand that the human capital that exists in diaspora is immense, and we need your knowledge, we need your experience, we need your expertise to bring it to Armenia and help us achieve the vision that we have, and that is a sustainable, organic, and clean Armenia. So in conclusion, as my time is running out, unfortunately, I want you to walk away from this talk in particular with this idea. We're a very diverse and multi-layered nation. It's very hard for us to articulate a single identity that will be where you can feel that your identity, your personal identity fits. So one important area where I believe that a lot of Armenians, whether they live in Singapore, or in LA, or in Moscow, can unite around, and that is to have sustainable, clean, and organic Armenia. In that respect, one interesting aspect about us is that we're very place conscious, but we're not place bound. But another interesting aspect is that we have strong connection with the soil. Armenia has traditionally had many environmental movements. So how do we transition from being place conscious to be place bound? What if we see Armenia in the next few years as a place where you can offset your carbon footprint by taking out your mobile phone and planting a tree in Armenia? What if Armenia becomes a collective vision for us as a nation with so much untapped ingenuity to be the first to articulate that vision and make it come true? So with this, I want you to take away a vision that is of clean, green, and sustainable Armenia, and I want you to join us in making that vision a reality. Thank you.